The next few poses will be done in a standing position. Please move slowly and at your own pace. Keep the sturdy chair nearby for balance if needed. If you find that I'm talking faster than you are moving, please take your time and do fewer repetitions. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Place the feet about hips width apart and grounded on the floor. Lift the toes and spread them nice and wide and feel the navel pull gently in towards the spine. Push the toes into the floor and lean forward just a little bit. Feel the muscles that keep you steady. Lean back just a little bit and feel the toes come up. Feel the muscles that keep you steady in this position. Now push all four corners of the feet into the floor. Notice the steadiness of mountain pose. Notice how the steadiness of mountain pose feels. On the next inhale, roll the shoulders towards the ears, back and down so the shoulders are slightly open. Let the palms rest open to the side. Inhale and let the arms rise with the palms facing up. Exhale, bend at the elbows and allow the hands to come down the center line. Sink into the knees just a little. Repeat this again. Inhale, lift the arms with the palms facing up. Allow the hands and face to be relaxed. Continue with this movement at your own pace. Breathe as you move and try to coordinate the breath with the movement. On the next breath, lift the arms back over the head. Fingertips point in, palms face up. Imagine that you have candles in the palms of your hands and you do not want to spill them. Turn the fingertips so they face behind you. The palms remain up. Turn the fingertips to the side and then to the front like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again, towards one another, and then forwards like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again. Let's do this rotation one more time. After the second rotation, allow the hands to cascade down by the side and let them rest. Pause for one slow inhale and exhale. One more breath. Inhale, exhale. This next exercise is excellent for strengthening the spine and gently stretching the muscles of the back, front, and sides. Attempt to make the movement easeful and gentle. We will do these movements with various arm positions. The first arm position is the easiest. Please be sure to stay with the one that feels best for your body. We will demonstrate them all. Take the right hand to the waist and then the left. Roll the shoulders open. And on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale to the center. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale back to the center. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. And on the next inhale, gently pull the navel towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin and feel a sense of lengthening through the front of the body. On the next exhale, begin to fold gently forward. It does not have to be all the way. Bend the knees slightly. Inhale and rise back to a standing position. Open the left arm to the side. Keep the elbow bent. Leave the right hand on the waist. Inhale. Exhale, lean slightly to the right, and then return back to the center. Bring the left hand down to the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. Exhale and lengthen to the left. Return to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Gently pull the navel in towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward halfway. Inhale back to standing. Open the left arm again. Inhale, and on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale and return back to the center. Place the left hand on the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale and return back to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Lengthen through the front of the body. Slightly pull the shoulder blades together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward. Knees slightly bent. Inhale and return to standing in mountain pose. Pause for a moment. Inhale and exhale. For this warrior sequence, attempt to keep the movements gentle and relaxed. If you notice that you are struggling, move the feet closer together. Lower the arms or make the movements smaller. This pose is great for strengthening the legs, respiration, and opening the shoulders. Step the left foot forward just a few feet. The back foot points in at a 45-degree angle. The front knee bends and the hips face front if possible. Inhale, open the arms and bend at the elbows. On the exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards each other. Inhale, open the arms and push the heart softly forwards. Relax the shoulders. Exhale, bring the arms together. Inhale, open the arms to where you feel comfortable. Exhale, relax the arms inwards. Inhale, open and expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands back down by the side, return to mountain pose. One breath here. Inhale, exhale. Step the right foot forward. Take a moment, there's no rush. Ground the back foot into the floor. Bend the front knee. When you are ready, open the arms. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards one another. Inhale, open the arms. This is a relaxed opening in the chest. Exhale, bring the hands and arms towards one another. Inhale, repeat again, creating spaciousness with a full inhale. Exhale, contract and relax the arms slightly. 2 more times at your own pace. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Let the hands rest down by the side and return back to mountain pose. Pause here for a few breaths.
Welcome back to the 49th online episode of Peacetime, hosted every Sunday morning by Peace Point with myself, Phra Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from our meditation center in London. Last time you saw me, we looked at blessing number 7, artfulness in knowledge or learnedness. With the Dhamma talk today, we will continue our series on Enlightened Living with blessing number 8, artfulness in application, or perhaps, put more simply, mastering your craft. So today's session will run to about an hour and 10 minutes, starting with a 20-minute talk to define craftsmanship and its acquisition, then 30 minutes of meditation and 20 minutes to explain how knowledge can be transformed into craftsmanship. Since the previous blessing, we have already discovered the value of being artful in knowledge. But this is not good enough. It is also necessary to be artful in the way we apply what we know, the subject of this blessing. Many people confuse knowledge with ability. Artfulness in the application of knowledge means that even if you have learned an occupational subject, if you have learned all the necessary theory, you will need to transform that theory into practice, allowing you to earn your living. On the spiritual side, even if you have learned Dhamma theory, you still have to transform that knowledge into Dhamma practice. It's like someone who reads a manual of swimming, who can memorize every page of the manual. They know all the basic swimming strokes, the differences between them. But having read the book, they put it on the side of the swimming pool and jump in, sinking without trace. This is one reason why many graduates are unemployed. They have only knowledge from examinations or from copying their college friends, but they have no practical knowledge. They expect to get a prestigious job in keeping with their prestigious degree and look down on almost every type of work. When they have only academic knowledge but no practical experience, they can hardly expect to choose what they want to work at. No employer would want to take them on. If they don't want to end up on the welfare line, they need to be willing to take on any work they can find to get the practical experience, ideally even before they graduate, to make themselves more attractive as a prospect for employers. If they can do this, there will be talent scouts trying to track them down even before they graduate. Some people get themselves a prestigious degree in accounting. They become a lecturer in university because they can teach their students to become successful accountants. Because of that, they assume that they also must be a capable accountant. Seeing their students are richer than they are, they give up their teaching and set up shop themselves. But as the saying goes, for some teachers anyway, those who can do, those who can't teach. After a while, they realize there was a reason they should have stayed as a teacher, because their business is tanking. Just from bankruptcy, they have to go back to teaching. Only then would they realize the reality that knowledge and application of knowledge are completely different attributes. The name of this 8th blessing on mastering your craft is derived from the Pali word sipang, which means one endowed with artistry. It means someone who is skilled in application of their knowledge. The Bahu Sutta of Blessing 7 is one who is skilled in knowledge, but a person who has mastered this 8th blessing is one who can apply that knowledge fruitfully as well. At this stage in the sequence of blessings, we are not so worried about the ethics about livelihood, because we will return to this aspect later. Nonetheless, at this stage, we still need to bear in mind that not all performances or displays of application of knowledge qualify as wholesome. You can learn skills, but it doesn't guarantee that using a skill will be a blessing. Therefore, before committing yourself to a skill you want to learn, you have to consider the merits of it first, for the harmony of society. If you are a sculptor, then why not use your skill to sculpt Buddha images that can bring inspiration to others? Draw, then why not draw the sort of pictures that will inspire others to do good deeds? Even little skills like being able to make toys for one's children can help save spending your hard-earned money on movie tie-ins and merchandise. So keep things wholesome. Bear in mind the following 6 qualities of applied work that demonstrate true artistry. Firstly, it must be refined. Secondly, it must add value to the raw materials. I once read a book on Maori values where they have to think long and hard about fashioning a new canoe because the need and the workmanship have to justify cutting down the tree in the first place. The same caveats would apply to leaving expensive ingredients in the hands of an incapable cook. The third thing is the product of the work should lead to a creative rather than aggressive or destructive thinking. A motor engineer should use their skill to build engines to help people in their everyday lives rather than to build weapons to wage war. The fourth thing is that the product of the work shouldn't lead to sensual obsession. Don't go studying the sort of arts that will stir up base emotions like burlesque or peep shows. Even the nude section of the art gallery has different implications for mastering your craft than the portrait section. Fifth, the product of the work shouldn't lead to obsession with revenge. For example, one shouldn't engage in arts that will cause people to seek vengeance, such as inventing propaganda slogans. Lastly, the product of the work shouldn't lead to delusion. For example, supporting superstition or gullibility, like the propagation of disinformation. It's not only manual skills that qualify for fulfillment of the 8th blessing. Mastering your craft can be applied through all 3 channels of body, speech, and mind. Mastering your craft through bodily action applies to various sorts of applied expertise, like, let's say, plumbing, mechanics, painting, design, sculpture, photography, printing, or other vocational skills such as a gardener, farmer, author, or nurse. And further than that, having the manners to walk, stand, sit, and lie down politely, dressing appropriately, being hospitable, expressing respect, and behaving in a cultivated way. Mastering your craft through verbal action applies to communication skills, knowing what to say and how to say it, in a way that will inspire the hearer towards virtue. We will look at that verbal aspect of mastering your craft in more detail in the 10th blessing. Mastering your craft through mental action applies to skillfulness in thinking, having one's wits about one, and creative thinking. In a nutshell, mastering your craft can be expressed through all 3 channels of body, speech, and mind. An important part of turning one's knowledge into skills is repetitive practice or rehearsal. The 10,000-hour rule is a theory that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert in something, and it seems to be most frequently applied in the fields of sport and music. The Canadian journalist Malcolm Gladwell argued in his 2008 book Outliers that it appears that you need 10,000 hours to become a world leader in any given field, alongside the usual requirements of opportunity and privilege in order to get that lucky break. Examples of the 10,000-hour phenomenon include musicians, athletes, and entrepreneurs. Bill Joy, who's sometimes known as the Edison of the Internet, is one of the most influential people in computing history. He was lucky enough that the University of Michigan kept its computer center open all night, which allowed him to practice computer programming for 8 to 10 hours a day. While it's true that Bill Joy had an enormous aptitude for math, he was also lucky enough to be given the opportunity to get in 10,000 hours of programming practice, which was basically just down to luck. So either Joy was talented and put in the effort, but he also needed a whole lot of fortune of circumstance to come together so that he could amass 10,000 hours of practice, which meant that by the time he was in his 3rd year at Berkeley, he was up to the task of rewriting Unix source code. To take another example, this time from musicians, there was a survey at Berlin's elite Academy of Music, where violinists were divided up into 3 groups: those with the potential to become world-class soloists, those who were judged to be merely good, and those who were unlikely ever to play professionally. They were asked a simple question: since you first picked up a violin, how many hours have you practiced? By the age of 20, the elite students had amassed a total of 10,000 hours. The good students, 8,000, and the future music teachers only 4,000 hours. Similarly, the Beatles didn't start out as a famous group. They started out as a mediocre garage band. However, the group had the experience in Hamburg before they got their big break that they were required to play 8 hours a day and 7 days a week. They weren't able just to do their best numbers. They had to learn a lot of covers, and being foreign, they had to put in a lot more energy into their routines to come across effectively. Between 1960 and 1962, they played a total of 270 nights in Hamburg. They went out average and they came back uniquely excellent. No one else sounded like them, with a total of 1,200 live performances, a figure which most professional bands struggle to achieve in the course of their entire careers. From the Beatles' Hamburg experience, a particular promoter from Germany was in London scouting for bands. I met a guy from Liverpool who knew the Beatles, just randomly in a bar in Soho, and it was this connection which propelled them to world fame. The Bill Gates story is also told as one of individual grit. He started out as a company that needed someone to write payroll software. Gates took the advantage of that opportunity, and he happened to live within walking distance of Washington State University, which had free computer time between 3 and 6 a.m. that Gates took advantage of. All the above opportunities gave Gates time to practice programming, and by the time he dropped out of Harvard, he was way past his 10,000 hours of programming experience. So what truly distinguishes Bill Joy, Bill Gates, Berlin elite violinists, and the Beatles was not their extraordinary talent necessarily, but their effort through all the cases that I mentioned, but rather their extraordinary opportunities to practice for 10,000 hours. This seems to be the rule rather than the exception, with software engineers and rock stars alike. This pattern has been found also amongst musicians, sports stars, and grandmasters at chess. And this idea that to become an expert requires a critical mass of practice hours surfaces again and again, so much so that the magic number of 10,000 hours to be an expert has emerged. Since Malcolm Gladwell wrote his book, it must be admitted that there have been some detractors to the 10,000 hour theory. For example, the caveats that the practice has to be deliberate, focused practice with experts on hand. And it's also been pointed out that emotions play a critical part in learning, that mental practice is surprisingly powerful, and that practice takes on meaning and relevance when the goal is connected to purpose and long-term values. Nonetheless, the idea that practice makes perfect continues to hold water, particularly for the practice of meditation. Therefore, if you want to master any skill within a 5.5-year period, you will need to make sure that for 44 weeks of the year, you practice your skills 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. I suppose this is what's known as professionalism. So before we add to our 10,000 hours of meditation today, we have time for a quick story to illustrate the value of applied knowledge as compared with mere theory. Once upon a time, there was a young professor who was making a sea voyage. He was highly educated and had a long trail of letters after his name, but he had little experience of life. In the crew of the ship on which he was traveling, there was an illiterate old sailor, and every evening the sailor would come to visit the cabin of the young professor to listen to him hold forth on many different subjects. He was very impressed with the learning of this young man. One evening, the sailor was about to leave the cabin after several hours of conversation, and the professor asked, "Old man, have you ever studied geology?" "What's that, sir?" "The science of Earth." "No, sir, I've never been able to go to school or college. I've never studied anything." "Old man, you've wasted a quarter of your life." With a long face, the old sailor went away. If such a learned person says so, certainly it must be true, he thought, and I wasted a quarter of my life. Next evening, as the sailor was about to leave the cabin, the professor asked him, "Old man, have you ever studied oceanography?" "What's that, sir?" "The science of the sea." "No, sir, I've never studied anything." "Old man, you surely wasted half of your life." With a still longer face, the sailor went away. "I've wasted half my life. This learned man says so." Next evening, as the sailor was about to leave the cabin, he heard, "Old man, have you ever studied meteorology?" "What's that, sir? I've never heard of it." "Well, it's the science of the wind, the rain, and the weather." "No, sir. As I told you, I've never been to any school. I've never studied anything." "You've not studied the science of the earth on which you live. You've not studied the science of the sea on which you earn your livelihood. You have not studied the science of the weather on which you encounter every day. Old man, you've surely wasted 3/4 of your life." And the old sailor was very unhappy. This learned man says I've wasted 3/4 of my life. Certainly I must have wasted 3/4 of my life, like he said. Next day it was the turn of the old sailor, however. He came running to the cabin of the young man and cried, "Professor, have you ever studied swimology?" "Swimology? What do you mean?" "Can you swim, sir?" "No, I don't think I know how to swim." "Professor, the ship has struck a rock and is sinking. Those who can swim will reach the nearby shore, but those who cannot swim will drown. I'm sorry, Professor, but I have surely got to inform you that you've lost the whole of your life. So, you may study all the ologies of the world, but if you don't learn swimology, then all your studies are useless. You may read and write books on swimming. You may debate on its subtle theoretical aspects, but none of these are going to help you if you refuse to enter the water yourself. So being able to master the applied art of swimming will certainly be more of a blessing to you than the combined knowledge of 3 academic disciplines once your ship goes belly up in the middle of the ocean. So now that we know the importance of putting what we know into practice, before we go any further, let's take the opportunity to cultivate that inner wisdom by settling ourselves for half an hour of meditation, which today is entitled Unwrapping the Inner Gift. If at this time you would like to find a comfortable sitting position for yourself as you listen to my guidance. So just before we start the meditation, I'd like to invite all of us to take a moment to adjust ourselves. Whether you're sitting inside or outside, take a moment to adjust your posture for meditation. So when it comes to adjusting for meditation, bear in mind that more haste makes for less speed. Take the time you need to make sure that your body is comfortable and the position in which you're sitting is relaxed. Whether you're sitting on a chair or sitting on a meditation mat, the key is to make sure your body is relaxed first of all. You can consider getting yourself relaxed as a down payment on the success of your meditation ahead. And to this end, each time you sit to meditate, the main thing is to bring 2 things into balance, namely being conscious and being calm in equal measures. So when we start out, we focus simply on relaxing the body. Whether we're sitting on a chair or on a meditation mat, wherever you're sitting, don't overlook the simple task of adjusting your body to be relaxed. Even if you're sitting outside in the open air, you may need to have a blanket to hand to keep you warm and comfortable if it becomes chilly. Relaxation is at the heart of meditation, because only by starting from a certain level of relaxation and calm can our mind truly settle. So having found a position that is comfortable and relaxed, you can slowly and gently close your eyes, as naturally as if you're about to go to sleep. Because this is a time we have set aside for ourselves truly to relax, recharge, and replenish our body and mind. Once we've closed our eyes in a natural and relaxed way, we can simply forget about using our eyes anymore, because in order to access inner experience, in order to visualize a meditation, we no longer need to use our eyes, but simply use our feeling of relaxation and of contentment. So let's take a moment to check our body, to relax and release, making sure that all the muscles in our body are free of any tension or hidden stress. Whether we've meditated many times before or if this is our first time, we shouldn't overlook the importance of scanning down through the whole of our body. By making a body scan, we take the time to check the way we've closed our eyes is as relaxed as possible, and that our eyebrows are free of tension. We might try conjuring up a small but contented smile on our face, as if we are embracing a tide of relaxation throughout our body, relaxing and releasing any tension in our shoulders, arms, hands and fingers, being sure to relax our back and our legs, all the way down to our feet and our toes. We may even scan back and forth for a few moments just to make sure that any inadvertent tension is gone. And we take a deep and soothing breath all the way in, feeling the cool and refreshing air as it fills up our body with relaxation, calm and contentment. Even as we exhale slowly and gently, we allow that relaxation and contentment to spread out, blanketing us with warmth and comfort as we fill ourselves with a feeling of relaxation within and around us, allowing us to feel calmer and more relaxed, almost as if our body has become weightless, free of any constriction or tension. And now that our body is relaxed, our mind will start to become relaxed as well, because the two are interconnected. But to help our mind to become calmer, more relaxed, we just need to put all our mental chatter to one side, to bring our mind back to the present. There's no need to worry or plan, because worrying about tomorrow only detracts from our peace in the present moment. Although each of us has so much love to give, but we need to start by allocating some of that love to ourselves, to make sure our mind is in the present, to make sure our mind is in the right place, to be positive, to be brighter. For every second that your mind is in the present, contently and patiently observing, we will be engaged with the beneficial energy arising from our meditation. This is why every step of the way during our meditation should be a pleasure. We need to feel ever calmer, ever more relaxed. So it's not necessarily about getting to a destination or a goal, but it's about enjoying the journey, enjoying the meditation session every step of the way. If you can engage with your meditation in contentment, it will ensure our inner journey is as smooth and fluid, and before you know it, you will have reached the destination you set for yourself. But for now, don't focus on the destination, because that will pull you away from the present moment. Bring your mind back from any expectations or anticipation to the here and now, and just simply relax for the interim. And to help our mind stay in the present, we bring our attention to a focus at a single point, a point which essentially can be anywhere we like, whether it's at the center of our body, elsewhere in the body, or even outside of us. Focusing the mind by whatever method we feel comfortable with, that is easy for us to use, whether it's to visualize, to feel an imaginary object, to observe what is already there, or use a mantra. The key is to apply our mind gently. If we are imagining a meditational object, it can be something like the full moon, a sun, or a shining star within. We can imagine it however or wherever we like, as long as it leaves us feeling calm and relaxed. Visualization or the mantra inside is just a skillful means to keep us in the present moment, to keep us relaxed, helping our mind to become calm and still. If the thoughts in the mind are still persistent, we can simply call to mind the mantra Samma Arahant, Samma Arahant, Samma Arahant, or even a simpler mantra like the words bright and clear, bright and clear. Every time we repeat the mantra, it's like a soothing lullaby that will coax our mind back to a natural state, free of any extraneous thoughts, while allowing the mind to relocate itself in the present moment. Eventually we will come to a point where all we want to do is relax. An alternative technique that we can use is just to follow our feeling, which means doing nothing more than allowing ourselves to relax, to do nothing and to let go. When, in your own estimation, you feel ready, then allow your thoughts to grind to a standstill, in accordance with the advice that is the legacy of the founder of our Dhammakaya tradition, that stopping the mind is the key to success. The way to stop is simply to be relaxed and to be calm. The thoughts will stop and grind to a standstill on their own, through the relaxation that we feel in the here and now. The key is just to be content, to focus, to appreciate what we have right now, and not to worry about what's to come or what's lacking. We already have everything we need to succeed in meditation. As long as we feel calm, comfortable and relaxed, all we need to do is to surrender to a sense of patience and calm. By patience, I mean the patience not to interfere with the process. In any case, before we know it, this relaxation will begin to grow and expand, allowing us to feel more and more content, because inner peace, the gift of true happiness, has always been there within us. The key to unwrapping that gift is simply to be content, to let go and relax. And the gift of inner peace will unwrap itself, releasing the inner contentment and brightness that has always been within us, waiting for us to reconnect with it. So let's take this precious time together, simply to follow the feeling of relaxation, to allow it to guide the mind back within us. With every second that passes, that we feel a little more calm and relaxed, our mind will become clearer, brighter, and more relaxed. And before we know it, the darkness, the negativity in our mind will be displaced by contentment, calmness, and brightness. But remember, the key is always to remain relaxed and contented. So if at any point along the way on your journey within, you lose touch with that sense of relaxation, either physically or mentally, it's perfectly acceptable to adjust and make a fresh start in our meditation. Because the moment we adjust to be more relaxed and contented, our meditation will shake itself free of that dead end and begin to progress again, more easily and smoothly. So let's continue with this meditation together, simply by remaining relaxed and allowing that relaxation to grow. The best way to allow it to grow is just to remain content. As long as we feel content, the relaxation will grow on its own, and through that relaxation, the clouds in our mind will disappear, revealing the full, shining nature of the mind within. Just like the full moon that shines its brightness on everything and everyone, inside of us we can all have the gift of contentment, a brightness that can shine, that will unwrap itself within, simply by remaining relaxed and calm. So for now, for a few more moments, we continue to immerse our mind in this inner calmness and relaxation together, for a few more moments in silence. Normally we would think of a gift being a present and a present being a gift. We've already said that we have a present waiting to be unwrapped inside us. There's a second meaning of the word present that is really important for our meditation, which is the present that is not the past and is not the future, but which is in the here and now. The present is actually the only time in our life that we have complete control over. To master our present, through meditation and examine the benefits our present holds for us in spiritual and worldly ways, will help us appreciate the incomparable opportunity we have of being alive and well. Every moment of life since we were born has been the potential opportunity to improve ourselves, which is why Johann Wolfgang von Goethe famously said we should live each day as if life had just begun. This is appreciation of all that we have and the chance to improve, that we sometimes refer to as our beginner's mind. So the key to the beginner's mind and benefiting from our present is learning to be content, not just for success in life, but also in meditation, which is to keep our mind in the present, which means enjoying things as they happen. Even Dr. Seuss famously said we shouldn't cry because it's over, but we should smile because it happened at all. Otherwise our mind is in the past or the future instead of the present. So the key thing is, especially in meditation, that we not focus on what's lacking, but on what we actually have in our present. So the moment you focus on what you have, you're going to appreciate what you have more. But when you focus on what's missing, for example, that you want more spectacular inner experiences in your meditation, it's going to rob you of your contentment. And the moment that you're not content with what you have in the meditation, you'll run up against a dead end. Without feeling contented, you're not going to feel still or calm, which is why in meditation we need to let go of hankering and anticipation. And if you want your mind to come to a standstill, to become immersed in contentment, you need to start from a place of comfort both in body and mind. If it happens that for any session we have only a small amount of comfort when we start out, if when we are sitting and even after we adjust our body we're still not quite as relaxed as in previous sessions, but if we're still able to sit, and if we still feel comfortable up to a certain point, where you're not in pain or suffering unduly, then you can work with that. Just avoid making comparisons with past meditations, and keep your mind in the present, and it will make your meditation progress easier. So it's very important to accept what you have right now, and not to compare with the past. Similarly, to give yourself a gift of the present, and to avoid letting your mind get ahead of itself by anticipating the future. So the key thing here, other than being comfortable both in body and mind, is to be contented. Even starting out from a small amount of relaxation, the amazing thing is that if you regard that small amount of relaxation as a gift, and you accept it, and are thankful for it, then the gift will start to unwrap itself, allowing you to access something that's hidden inside. That small amount of relaxation, even though it may not be as spectacular as you want, but if you're content in the present moment, and you simply accept it, when it comes to the unboxing, you'll find something as miraculous as a diamond inside that unremarkable packaging. So the equivalent of the diamond in meditation is the inner peace and contentment that awaits you within. Although you start from only an unremarkable level of relaxation, no matter how little you start with, if you're content with it and keep your mind in the present, it will blossom on its own, just through the appreciation that this gift, that's been with us since we were born, can be unlocked at any time, anywhere, just by closing our eyes to relax, just by maintaining that balance of consciousness and calm during our meditation. And if we find our mind wanders, we just bring it back again. Oftentimes you can understand the way the mind works by the metaphor of an old leaky garden hose that has lots of holes in it. So instead of reaching the nozzle, all the water is seeping out of the holes before it ever gets there. Any water that reaches the end of the hose is very weak and feeble. But if you were to plug all those holes in the pipe, then you transform it into a power hose. The mind works in the same way. When we've got a lot of distractions, pulling our attention off to the past or to the future, to thoughts, theories, daydreams, or any sort of thing, then the focus of our attention becomes feeble. However, when we learn to focus our attention, it's like plugging the holes in the pipe. We can recover a very powerful and focused attention that when it gets to a certain level of refinement, we could call samadhi. The mind that's concentrated in a state of samadhi can know things on a very, very subtle level, such as attaining a state of one-pointedness and unification of the mind. Some people already think that they are there when they detect joy in their body. But if it is really samadhi, it will be a state of uninterrupted knowing of a mental object. So it's not an object that we know through the five senses. It's not a bodily sensation. It's a mental object, oftentimes but not always perceived as a light. And it becomes possible to know that object uninterrupted for hours at a time. The uninterrupted knowing means that no interrupting thoughts arise. No sound around us disturbs us anymore. No sensation in our body can distract us. We don't even notice the passing of time. Our awareness is completely absorbed into our object of meditation, and this is accompanied by a natural sense of bliss and joy. That's what's meant by plugging up the holes in the garden hose. All of the mind's attention is going on just one thing for a long time. And as our mind becomes calmer and more peaceful within, you may start to notice that your mind is beginning to feel positive, clear and bright, almost as if we can feel the warmth, the brightness within shining like a candle or the full moon. Just simply relaxing our body and mind can help us to remove the darkness from our mind, the negativity. And when our mind is clear, bright and positive, it will attract into our lives things on the same wavelength, whether it be positive things, situations, people or opportunities. That's why it's said that when your mind is in the right place, the rest of your life will also fall into place. So now that our mind is brighter, clearer and more positive, let's take the time to spread this positivity, to spread our brightness, as if we would spread our smile. But in this case it is our inner smile, our true smile, a smile from within, that we can spread, that we can share. The mind is a powerful thing, which is why this positivity can be shared for the benefit of our friends, our family, or our loved ones, simply by imagining their face or their name, wishing that they be happy, be healthy, as well as also having the chance to meditate, so that they too can find their own inner contentment
their inner peace. We can imagine, almost as if the calm that we feel within, the relaxation we feel right now, the warmth, the brightness within us, is growing, shining outwards to pervade all sentient beings with warmth and contentment. As that light of positivity grows beyond ourselves, to our family, to our friends, to others sharing our neighborhood, transcending differences and distances, as we are connected together through this positivity, by this peace that we feel. This is how the world can become a brighter place, starting from ourselves. A better you essentially means a better world. So we continue to spread our positivity, our good intentions, our good wishes for ourselves, for our family, for our friends, wishing them to be healthy, to be happy, to be protected from any negativity, dangers, sickness, now and forevermore, for a few more moments now in silence.
Sabba Buddha Nupavena, Sabba Dhamma Nupavena, Sabba Sankha Nupavena, Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position before gradually finishing your practice. So to return gently to our subject matter for today on the mastering of our craft, if you want to transform your academic knowledge into transferable skills, you have to possess 5 qualities that include confidence, strong health, humility, diligence, and wisdom. So let's look at each in turn. Firstly, you need to believe in what you do, or at least have the confidence in yourself. You have to believe that what you're doing is of real benefit and virtue. You should be enthusiastic about doing it and have the confidence that you can make a success out of it. Some doctors, for example, get their qualification, but have no confidence in the ability of modern medicine to fix people's problems. It could be that they'd be better off switching to preventative medicine instead. They need to believe in what they're doing if they're going to make a success out of it and to dedicate themselves to it. Secondly, you need to safeguard your health. You shouldn't be the sort of person who's a hypochondriac or who catches cold simply by sitting in a draft. If you are always worried about your health, then it will be hard for you to succeed in learning a trade. A practical way to safeguard your health from all the possible risks is very simple, which is to keep the 5 precepts strictly. If you neglect your health or willfully destroy yourself by engaging in behaviors contrary to the 5 precepts, then you will find it hard to ever achieve success in learning a trade. Thirdly, you need to be humble. Those who spend all day bragging about what they will do but never get around to doing it will never manage to master a trade. No one wants to accept someone who is boastful as an apprentice. The only skill which boastful people manage to develop is the ability to find fault with other people. in order to let everyone know how wonderful they are themselves. By pushing others down, they're able to hoist themselves up in the estimation of others. The habit of a boastful person is to take very minor virtues or abilities and exaggerate it beyond all proportion. Fourthly, you need to be diligent. If you have only knowledge, but you are too lazy to do anything with it, then you will be no more than knowledgeable for the rest of your life. Lastly, you need to cultivate wisdom. Wisdom is cultivated by being observant and reflecting on new skills and techniques, part of the process of mastering our craft, which we will look at now. So you cannot acquire wisdom just by lying around aimlessly. You have to be active in your search for wisdom according to 6 steps. Firstly, you need to be observant of yourself and the things around you. It's all very well to say be observant, but in fact it's important to know what to observe. In a nutshell, our powers of observation should always attempt to seek out the good and useful characteristics of the things we observe. You have to start by observing yourself first, because to observe yourself is theoretically the simplest. You should start by noticing aspects of your lifestyle, for example, your eating and sleeping habits, to try to define what is appropriate or inappropriate and where the point of equilibrium lies for various factors. If you eat too much, it will make you sleepy. If you eat too little, your stomach will rumble at night. You have to notice what happens to you if you go to bed late. You have to notice what happens to you if you get up late. Which is better for you, to go to bed at 10 at night and wake up at dawn, or to go to bed at midnight and to wake up at 7 in the morning? Once you know how to be observant of yourself, then you can gradually extend your observation to the things around you. We notice our clothes, how our clothes get dirty at the collar or around the cuffs. We notice what sort of clothes are suitable for what sort of situation. We gradually extend our observation to the things more distant from us, noticing how to speak to people in an appropriate way, how to speak to people to inspire them instead of making them lazy. Notice the characteristics of things around you. If you train yourself to be observant, even of yourself, any skill you want to learn will soon be within your reach and wisdom will follow. Secondly, you need to train yourself to do everything better than best. Never look down on any work that comes your way. Never think any task you do is unimportant. Even simple tasks like your handwriting should be done with care. From the time when a child is young, they should be trained to write neatly whatever they do, so that being careful about whatever work they are to do in the future will be ingrained from an early age. Some people write with such messy handwriting that others can barely decipher what's been written. Someone who writes like that since their youth until adulthood will soon get themselves in the habit of doing everything in a shoddy way, never achieving anything better than passable quality. If you do everything to the best of your ability, skills and abilities will soon come your way, without you even having to spend time looking for them. Even if you don't study the specific qualities of a particular art, if you are always observant of quality and do things cleanly and in a detailed way, even though you cannot produce artwork for yourself, you will at least be able to tell quality in the work of others. Once you have trained your mind to be refined and to notice details, even the way you speak will be of a higher quality because it is rooted in reason and confidence, since your train of thought has become more systematic. Thirdly, you need to train yourself to be refined in all that you do. Some might accuse you of being obsessive, but if you insist on high quality in your work, even in the details, before long you will start to master your craft because, as they say, for the challenging skills, the devil is in the detail. Fourthly, you should always look for better ways to do the same thing. Sometimes you can already do a task, but nonetheless, you should always look for quicker, more efficient, and more cost-effective ways to do the same thing. It will force you always to improve your skills and never become complacent. Fifth, you need to apprentice yourself to an established craftsman. Seek out craftsmen in the field which you want to master and become apprentice to them. Be respectful and helpful to them so that they will have the compassion to push you further in the direction of mastering your craft. It's like the policy deployed since the late 19th century by William Stewart Halstead as a method to train surgeons at Johns Hopkins University residency program of see one, do one, teach one, where capable students were not only those who could witness and perform surgery, they were also able to teach surgery to others too. In that way, all your mastery of knowledge will not only be limited to overcoming your own shortcomings, but the application of knowledge can also be used to overcome shortcomings of others as well. Lastly, you need to make sure you meditate regularly. The art of training our capabilities of action and speech is rooted in our capability to train the mind. Systematic thinking and observation can only be developed when the mind is well trained. Train the mind through meditation will make the acquisition of other capabilities easy, because to be able to meditate is the ultimate skill, since it deals with our discernment of detail at its root. If you remember back to the learning process already described in the previous blessing, you'll realize that mastering a craft concerns the last two steps of the knowledge acquisition process, which involves the application of that knowledge for the good of ourselves and others. Some people use their knowledge and skills only for their own selfish benefits. Sometimes they are afraid that if they teach all they know to anyone else, then those other people will set up as a competitor or sell their trade secrets to an industrial spy. They're hesitant about sharing benefit with others. Call to mind the sharing of vocational knowledge as one of the forms of generosity we mentioned back in blessing number 5, which was termed vidyatana. The attitude which is the healthiest for rounding off a body of knowledge that you've learned is to use your knowledge both for your own benefit and for the benefit of others too. If you want to learn artfulness in application quickly, you have to make sure that you're not the sort of person who can do nothing better than find fault with the work of others, unless you're training, of course, to be a professional critic. If you've done nothing but criticize others when it comes to your turn to show off your mastery of your craft, then you will not have the confidence to let others see what you've made or done, for fear they will criticize you in the same way that you have done for them. In such a case, you'll end up as someone who never achieves anything. Although we will revisit the subject more in blessing number 18, with any skill or task that you master, it's also essential to locate the ethical gray areas within that job, so that you always keep your diligence on the right side of the law of karma. For today, let's finish off with a story to illustrate the point that a person who has mastery even of a single skill can eke out their livelihood with ease. In this story, we will see how flicking goat dung can be a skill that can transform someone from rags to riches and even bring significant benefit to the whole of a nation. So here comes the story. In ancient times, there was a child with polio. His legs were so weak that he couldn't walk anywhere unaided. He had to stay wherever his friends put him. He couldn't even get up. Although his body was disabled, his intelligence was as smart as a whip. He didn't look down on any subject. The child would practice flicking sand until he could flick sand a long distance very precisely. The boy used his skills to earn favors from others. The boy could flick sand so accurately that he could shoot holes in the leaves of trees above. Not only holes, but he could shoot holes in the shape of anything he wanted, whether they be the shapes of rabbits or tigers or deer. The boy would shoot holes in leaves to the order of other children in return for candies and snacks. The boy with polio had never studied in school, but through his skill, he had more treats to eat than the other children every day. One day, the boy was flicking sand on the sand heap for the other children when the king passed by. All the other children ran away, and the boy with polio was left alone because he was unable to run away. The king came to rest in the shade of the tree by the sand heap, and when he looked up, he was surprised to see that almost every leaf of the tree had been perforated in the shape of different animals. The king asked how such a tree had come to be that way, and found out that it was due to the skills of the boy with polio. The king thought the skills of such a boy should not be wasted in a sandpit. So the king happened to have something on his mind, which was every time he had a meeting of his counselors, there was a particular counselor who would always interrupt and dominate the discussion, persistently wasting the time of everyone else in the meeting. King asked the boy, if someone were to open their mouth, would you be able to shoot goat dung into their mouth in the same way that you flick sand through the leaves? And the boy said it would be a piece of cake. The king arranged that the boy be taken into the palace, whereas all the people with all their health and strength never got the chance to visit the palace at all. But because of his skills, this disabled boy got the VIP treatment. Every time there was a meeting, the boy was concealed behind a curtain in the meeting room. And every time the counselor in question opened his mouth to speak, the boy flicked goat dung into his mouth. The boy was so fast that the counselor didn't even know where the strange taste in his mouth had come from. The counselor would want to speak, but change his mind, since every time he would have to swallow what was in his mouth. One day the counselor had opened his mouth so many times that the boy had used up a whole bucketful of goat dung. The king at that time felt sorry for the counselor and was afraid he was going to get dysentery. So he ordered the counselor to go and wash his mouth out immediately and told him to reduce the amount he said, or else in future he would get 2 bucketfuls of goat dung in his mouth instead. On future occasions, the counselor had to consider carefully before saying anything, in case he became the target of more flying goat dung. As a result of having more effective meetings, the economics of the kingdom improved considerably, and the king rewarded the disabled boy by allocating all the money earned in taxes from a particular province to that boy as private income. The boy grew up to be a rich man as a result of a single skill, simply because he put his mind to mastering his craft. So we come to the time in our live stream when we open up to questions sent in by viewers in advance. So the question today comes from Teresa of Los Angeles, who you will remember from our last show sent in the question about assisted suicide. Here comes her new question. What is the difference between a Buddha and an Arahant? Hi, Teresa, and thank you again for your question. Actually, you can get quite a good answer to this question just by Googling it, but I will try to elaborate on the bare bones answer you can find on the web. An Arahant is a person who has attained the goal of enlightenment or awakening. Essentially, Arahantship consists of the eradication of the defilements, in Pali known as kilesa, or sometimes if you want to get a comparison with the lower levels of enlightenment, is equated with the breaking of all the 10 mental fetters or samyotana. This effectively means that on dying, an Arahant has no further rebirth. The difference between an Arahant and a Buddha is that a Buddha got enlightened by his own efforts, whereas an Arahant does it by following the teachings of another. It should be noted, however, that the Buddha is also an Arahant and is frequently addressed as such in the invocations such as the Pali formula Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, or homage to the Lord, the Worthy One, the Perfectly Awakened One. Because a Buddha attained Arahantship by his own devices, it tends to come together with an ability to teach the Dhamma for the benefit of others, which is more than your regular Arahant can manage, and also more than a category of beings that falls between Arahants and fully enlightened Buddhas, known as silent Buddhas, known technically as Pacceka Buddhas, which are Buddhas who are unable to teach others the full path to enlightenment. The difference in ability between the 3 categories is accounted for in terms of the length of time each of the beings pursued the 10 perfections before coming to their final lifetime. As I explained in my talk labeled B009, for Arahants, it would need to be 100,000 Mahakalpas of pursuing perfections. For a Pacceka Buddha, it would take at least 2 Asankaya Mahakalpas plus 100,000 Mahakalpas, whereas for a fully enlightened Buddha, it would take at least 10 times as long, a minimum of 20 Asankaya Mahakalpas plus 100,000 Mahakalpas. To add to the complexity between Buddhas and Arahants, in the Visuddhimagga, Arahants are divided into 5 different levels of achievements, depending on the extra mental attainments they have achieved at their time of enlightenment. The first is the Arahant liberated by wisdom, or Panya Vimutti. The second is the Arahant liberated both by concentration on wisdom, or Upattopaka Vimutti. The third is the Arahant, possessing the threefold knowledge of past lives, of themselves and others, as well as having reached the end of defilements. The fourth is the Arahant, possessing the sixfold super knowledge, or Jalapinya, which in short is an additional 3 sorts of mental powers like magical powers, divine ear, and mind reading. Lastly, there's the Arahant who has attained the 4 analytic insights, or Patisampita Pata, which means discernment of cause, discernment of effect, extraordinary language abilities, and quick-wittedness. I suspect the reason you asked is because there's a difference in status between the Arahant and the Buddha, which is emphasized more in the Mahayana than in early Buddhism. In early Buddhism, the Arahant attains exactly the same goal as the Buddha, which is personal enlightenment. In the Mahayana Buddhism, however, Arahantship has come to be regarded as an inferior ideal than that of Buddhahood, and is somewhat unfairly portrayed as selfishly concerned with the goal of private nirvana. In contrast, the emphasis in the Mahayana is placed on the greater compassion of Buddhas who dedicate themselves to leading all beings to salvation. So this session I have introduced to you blessing number 8 on mastering your craft. For my next live session online, which will, fingers crossed, be a week on Sunday morning, I'll move on to the 9th blessing on the topic of self-discipline, which explains how being self-disciplined in the way you apply your abilities can be a pathway of blessings. For good measure, I would like to remind viewers that you can email your questions about meditation or what you've heard in this lecture to the email address that you can see spelled out on the slide, and I will do my best to answer these on my next session. In the meantime, I try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Hopefully, as a result of today's session, for those of you who are already knowledgeable, you will be a little bit more savvy now about how to become skilled in applying the things that you know. So for today, this is me, Phra Nicholas, signing off for now. So long, folks, and stay safe.